Welcome to NFL Live, where we start today with breaking news. Adam Schefter, what is it?
Dan, Will Anderson is now the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, reaching agreement today on a 3-year, $150 million extension that raises the bar for all non-quarterbacks across the league. Anderson is somebody that the Texans obviously prioritized in keeping. They already had picked up his 5th-year option. He's 24, will turn 25 this September, and the Houston Texans have locked him in for 3 additional years, meaning he's contractually tied to Houston for the next 5 years. One of the most underrated players in all of football, but no longer paid like one. The highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history is now Will Anderson.
Mina, when we last saw Will Anderson on a football field, he was dominating the New England Patriots in what turned out to be a playoff loss for Houston. Highest paid non-quarterback in the league. What is it that makes him good enough to be that?
I mean, he's such a complete player, but the pass rush production speaks for itself. Since coming into the league in 2023, he ranks 3rd amongst all pass rushers, behind only Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett in ESPN's pass rush win rate metric. He has created 91 interceptions in that time with his pressures on the quarterback, by the way. So getting this deal done was a no-brainer for, a high-character, productive player like Anderson. And, of course, that 4-man rush is the identity of this Texans team. I mean, you alluded to their performance in the playoffs. It is what the whole identity of that defense is built around. I will say, though, now the Texans have the highest-paid player and Danielle Hunter, the 5th highest-paid player on a much shorter-term deal. So they need to start finding value, I believe, on the defensive line. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they take a swing on a pass rusher because of how much they're expending now at the position for some depth and future potential. But, yeah, as far as Anderson goes, no-brainer, not very much to discuss, to be honest.
That's interesting, because you'd think with all this committed to the pass rush, maybe we don't have to watch them for defensive line in the draft, which, by the way, is in 6 days from right now.
Can't wait.
How do you think, if at all, this affects Houston's approach next week?
Couple notes here. First of all, this deal is very much in line with Houston's preferred contract ethos, right? This is a first-round pick. They recently picked up the 5th-year option for Will Anderson, which meant that he has 2 more years on the existing rookie deal. You tack on 3 years at record-setting money. This is the same thing they did last offseason with cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. The player, of course, becomes the highest-paid player at his position. In the case of Will Anderson, the highest-paid non-quarterback ever. Meanwhile, for the team, there's already 2 years that they have baked into this deal. So it's more palatable from a salary cap standpoint. As for the draft, guys, I think that, and Mina's...
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we are talking about the NFL draft, and there is a ton of breaking news. Will Anderson just became the highest-paid non-quarterback in NFL history. The Texans lock him up for 3 years and $150 million. The Cowboys are eyeing a trade-up for Ohio State linebacker Sonny Styles. The Patriots are trying to bring A.J. Brown to New England. And the Ravens might be targeting wide receiver Jordyn Tyson. The draft is just 6 days away. Let me break it all down for you. Adam Schefter broke the news. Will Anderson is now the highest-paid non-quarterback in NFL history. He signed a 3-year, $150 million extension with the Houston Texans. He is 24 years old and will turn 25 this September. The Texans already picked up his 5th-year option, so he is contractual tied to Houston for the next 5 years. Mina Kimes said that Anderson is such a complete player. His pass rush production speaks for itself. Since coming into the league in 2023, he ranks 3rd amongst all pass rushers, behind only Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett in ESPN's pass rush win rate metric. He has created 91 interceptions in that time with his pressures on the quarterback. So, getting this deal done was a no-brainer for a high-character, productive player like Anderson. Of course, that 4-man rush is the identity of this Texans team. Dan Graziano noted that this deal is very much in line with Houston's preferred contract ethos. The player becomes the highest paid player at his position. Meanwhile, for the team, there are already 2 years that they have baked into this deal from his rookie contract. So, it is more palatable from a salary cap standpoint. As for the draft, he thinks that pass rush could be on the radar a little bit. He said it underscores a bigger picture point for Houston. You got a lot of good players. You better absolutely nail the NFL draft, because the difference between sustaining that success and potentially having a regression is if you do not nail the draft. Field Yates pointed out that the Texans are paying Danielle Hunter and they are paying Will Anderson. You got to find some rookies to hit on those rookie contracts to fill out that roster on friendlier contracts. He also noted that Will Anderson became the second defensive player to have a no-trade clause included in his contract. Myles Garrett also has one. Nicole Lynn from Clutch Sports does both deals. That has been rare for defensive players. Now that it has been introduced, when there is a defensive player who is a superstar who has leverage, he may want that no-trade clause. Schefter then talked about Dexter Lawrence and the Giants. He said this is not a standoff right now. This is a player who simply wants out. And there is a real question as to whether the Giants will trade him. They would rather not, but it certainly feels like as the draft gets closer, that a trade is more and more possible for Dexter Lawrence. He said at least a first-round pie. CK to get Dexter Lawrence out of New York. Schefter also reported that Jacoby Brissett has been a no-show at the Cardinals' off-season workout program. As Michael Ford takes over as the new head coach, Brissett is not there. He is seeking a contract extension. He is in the final year of a contract that is scheduled to pay him under $10 million. He wants a contract more in line with starting quarterback money. The Falcons traded defensive tackle Rook Okoro to the Jaguars in exchange for Mason Smith. A rare swap of players at the same position. Both teams looking to fortify that particular spot. And earlier today, the Arizona State wide receiver Jordyn Addison, projected as a first-round draft pick, finally worked out for teams today. He had missed time during the combine due to a hand injury. There were, by estimation, at least 18 NFL teams in attendance to see what just might be the most talented wide receiver in this draft to form some final opinions with the NFL draft now under 1 week away. The analysts discussed Jordyn Addison. Field Yates said it is not a singular injury that teams have been concerned about. It is the sheer volume of injuries that teams that were skeptical have been concerned about. He has remained steadfast in his belief since probably the beginning of the fall that Addison is a top 10 player in the class. He is clearly the most explosive receiver in the class. He is the best threat at all 3 levels of the field. You want to throw it down D. EP. He will jump over you. After the catch, he will do that. You want to find him in the intermediate passing game? He can do that as well. There were multiple general managers that were there at this workout as well. Opinions have varied on Jordyn Addison throughout the pre-draft process. Him and Carnell Tate are right there, neck and neck. It is really just a matter of what is your flavor of wide receiver. Mina Kimes said if she had to summarize why Addison's ceiling is so high, why teams are so intrigued by him despite the injury history, it is his movement abilities, the suddenness and explosivity at his size, 6 feet 2 inches, are very rare. To her, where he shines the most is those intermediate area parts of the field, that 10 to 20 yard range. He leads all college receivers in receptions over the last 2 years. When she thinks about teams like the Saints, the Chiefs, or the Rams at 13, he makes sense for all of those teams. The question, of course, is just their appetite for risk with the injuries. Schefter added that there are teams that have said that if Jordyn Addison did not have the injury history that he did, on talent alone, on physical stature alone, you would be looking at a top 5 pick in this draft. But because of so many injuries that he has had to his knees, hamstring, his shoulder, that obviously raise the questions that have come up here in the pre-draft process. Then the analysts discussed the Jets cancelling a visit with David Bailey. Schefter said they can't. Led a visit with the player that some have projected to go number 2, feeling that they had enough information on him already. There are a couple of ways to look at that. They have enough information, they are very comfortable moving ahead and drafting him, or they know they are moving ahead in a different direction, which many presume would be Arvell Reese. Field Yates said his belief for the past few months has been David Bailey over Arvell Reese at pick number 2 for the New York Jets. It comes down to the question that the Jets have to ask themselves. If they are trying to line up and win a game tomorrow and add a pass rusher that is going to be an effective pass rusher at the NFL level, David Bailey is the pick. He fits schematically what they want to do. If they are looking for the guy who has a higher chance to be an entire shapeshifter for your defense, that just may not happen. The analysts also discussed the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation. Brooke Pryor reported that they would like it to be Aaron Rodgers. That is kind of been the prevailing thought. But their plan B appears to be Will Howard. Will Howard has drawn raves from Mike McCarthy and Brian Angelico. Mike McCarthy said that if he was drafting the year that Will Howard came out last year, Will Howard would not have been around in the 6th round. Dan Graziano reminded everyone of the first year after Tom Brady in New England, where for the first 3 or 4 months of the offseason, it was Jay. Arrett Stidham is going to be the guy. And then, in June, the news broke that Cam Newton was signing. Actions speak louder than words. He still thinks the Steelers have to be thinking long and hard about at least a mid-round quarterback option. Then the analysts discussed Mel Kiper's mock draft, where he has the Cowboys trading up to get Sonny Styles. Mel has the Cowboys sending picks 12 and 20 to the Browns for pick 6 and 39. Schefter said the Cowboys would have an interest in trading up, but the Cowboys have been very hesitant to include pick number 20 in those trade talks. He said if you are not including 20, it is probably not going to happen. Field Yates added that because this draft class is not as strong as some recent classes, picks this year could be on sale. He has heard teams say, don't let very good be the enemy of perfect as it pertains to a negotiation. Mina Kimes said she has to laugh a little bit because before the combine, she and Field were talking about Dallas getting Sonny Styles staying put at 12, and she was like, that is a perfect fit. It is exactly what they need. And then the combine happened, and now it feels absolutely impossible. She would not hate it if she is a Cowboys fan, but only depending on how they feel the draft is going to shake out. If they feel they can sit at 12 and still get Reuben Bain Jr., Caleb Downs, or one of the top 2 cornerbacks, she might consider staying put. She thinks one of the challenges for Dallas is picking behind. Cincinnati. They have such similar needs. It does feel like the Bengals are likely to snap the last remaining blue-chip defensive player before the Cowboys have a chance. They also have a win-now timeline with Dak Prescott and that offense. So, there is a little bit of timeline asymmetry, where Dallas needs to win now, whereas a team like Cleveland is desperate to just play for the future, and that might work to their advantage. The player is a perfect fit for exactly what they need in the biggest hole in their defense in her mind, which is off-ball linebacker. The analysts also discussed the Commanders at pick 7. Field Yates said he does not think any team picking in the top 10 is better positioned than the Washington Commanders. There are 4 guys that would be great fits, but 2 in particular, Jeremiah Love and Carnell Tate. He thinks this is the flaw for Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love, the number 2 player on his board. And Washington could justify taking a running back this high. Carnell Tate is just a refined, ready-made, ideal number 2 wide receiver in an NFL offense. One of those 2 guys he is almost positive will be available for the Commanders. If not, it means a defensive stud has fallen into their laps. Mina Kimes said she would be happy with both. She has been critical of certain teams taking Jeremiah Love. Washington, however, she thinks the offensive line is in good shape. The only objection she would have is if one of those top 3 pass rushers were there, because it is such a glaring need. Tate would be such a good fit as the explosive receiving option for Jayden Daniels. She thinks they would both be phenomenal choices. Finally, the analysts shouted out Mina Kimes, who will be on Celebrity Jeopardy All-Stars tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern on ABC. She said she was too conservative in her first Jeopardy run, so she will have to see if she follows her own advice about being more aggressive. So here is my question to you in the comments. Should the Cowboys trade up for Sonny Styles? And where will Jordyn Addison land in the draft? Let me know. I read every single comment. As always, like, subscribe, hit that bell. We are building something special here. I will see you in the next one.